I think it's pretty egregious what's been happening to us the last few games. A minus 31 free throw discrepancy. And I might be able to understand it if we were just chucking threes, but we're not. We're attacking the rim. And the disrespect right now for our team has been pretty unbelievable. So it's disappointing.
The Indiana Fever versus the Las Vegas Aces isn't just a playoff matchup. It feels more like a heist unfolding live on national TV. Indiana shocked the basketball world by stealing Game 1 on the road in Vegas, but everything shifted after that. From then on, the Aces weren't just relying on their star power or smart adjustments. They had the whistles going their way. The officiating was so one-sided it barely resembled fair competition. Head coach Stephanie White refused to stay silent. In one of the most powerful and emotional post-game interviews of her career, she called for nothing less than a full-scale league investigation into WNBA officiating. Fans in Gainbridge Fieldhouse witnessed it, social media echoed it, and the box score made it undeniable. The Aces weren't outplaying Indiana, they were being handed victories. The real shame? Those phantom calls drowned out the grit, resilience, and heart the Fever poured into every possession. What do you think? Will the WNBA step up and fix this problem, or let it slide?
Pointing, that it doesn't go both ways, or it hasn't gone both ways. But we also can't allow that to consume us, right? Like, we've got to be able to play through that. We've got to be able to control the things that we can control.
Let's be honest, this wasn't Indiana's first time battling two opponents. The team in front of them and the officials with whistles in hand. From the opening tip, the favoritism was impossible to miss. Game 1 revealed the pattern. Whenever Las Vegas stalled offensively, the free throw line became their lifeline. On the other side, Indiana's physical, disciplined defense, clean body-ups and smart positioning, was magically rebranded as foul trouble whenever it benefited the Aces. Vegas could throw elbows without consequence, while the Fever were penalized for little more than breathing too close. The double standard wasn't hidden. It was loud, blatant, and glaring to anyone who cared to watch.
Steph, why don't you think you were able to find any flow? And when that was the case, what are you trying to do to jumpstart things, maybe on the defense?
Well, it's hard for us to find flow when there's a foul call every 10 seconds. I mean, it just really is. And when they're at the free throw line, we can't get up and down the floor. And that's a challenge. They were much more aggressive and physical defensively. We didn't counter that with our off-ball actions or with our back cuts. So they took us out of our comfort zone. I mean, offense is about rhythm. It's about timing. It's about spacing. We allowed them to do that, and they kept us from.
By Game 2, the pattern was undeniable. The whistles weren't just present. They were steering the game itself, dragging Indiana out of rhythm time and time again. By Game 3, the imbalance had grown into a wall the Fever simply couldn't climb. The defining moment came in the third quarter. Aaliyah Boston, Indiana's rock in the paint, was hit with a foul call while defending Jackie Young. Immediately, Stephanie White signaled for a review. The bench was ready, the crowd held its breath. Yet the officials acted as if nothing had happened. They flat out ignored the request. Seconds later, Chelsea Gray buried a three-pointer, flipping the game's momentum in an instant.
Aaliyah Wilson is 1 for 12 as a foul is called on Boston, and that will be number 2 on Aaliyah Boston.
You saw Indiana picking up full court pressure defensively, and if you're Aaliyah Boston, that's the one spot on the floor you did not want to get a foul called.
And Stephanie White is trying to challenge it and did not call the timeout in time. Gray in the corner.
What had been a hard-earned Indiana lead was snatched away. Not by Las Vegas's execution, but by a call the officials refused to even review. The Gainbridge crowd erupted, their cheers twisting into boos and outrage. Within minutes, clips of the sequence flooded social media, with fans and analysts alike pointing to that exact moment as undeniable evidence of bias. And those breakdowns revealed more than a single blown review. They exposed a larger pattern. Vegas flopping their way into whistles, throwing elbows without consequence, and slipping in cheap shots that somehow stayed invisible to the referees.
Recap from last night. So Aaliyah Wilson pushes Howard in the back. Howard pushes her in the back. It's a foul on Howard. Look at this. Aaliyah Boston gets totally fouled by Nalissa Smith. Like, it's obvious, but no call. And then Aaliyah Wilson gets the call for not half as much. And then Alyssa Smith gets the call for not even getting touched. Here's a replay just to prove it to you. Yep, didn't get touched.
That's when it stopped feeling like mere oversight and started looking like an agenda. The tape doesn't lie. Aaliyah Wilson barreled through Aaliyah Boston with her shoulder lowered like a fullback, and play continued as if nothing happened. Indiana defenders were knocked to the floor with no call. Yet the moment a Fever player so much as grazed a jersey, the whistle screamed as if they'd committed a crime. This wasn't Vegas overpowering Indiana with pure talent. It was the referees handing the Aces lifelines until the scoreboard leaned their way.
Put up by Lexie Hull getting called for the foul.
I thought it was egregious, honestly. I mean, I thought it was obvious. I felt like AB got one, had one going to the rim. They're in rotation. And then Lexie's, I felt like equally, we talk about, coming into the path, and it was an offensive player veering into the defensive player's path.
But this is where Indiana showed what makes them different. Lesser teams would have crumbled under the weight of it all. Heads down, muttering about the unfairness and quietly folding. Not the Fever. Their defiance had a face, and it belonged to Lexie Hull. Think about it. How often does a player who, on paper, might not even be expected to see the floor nearly flip the script of an entire playoff game? That's exactly what Hull did over the past few nights. Battling through a painful back injury from Game 1, she was listed as questionable every outing. Her warm-ups looked stiff, her movements hesitant, and it seemed she might only give Indiana a few token minutes. But Hull didn't just take the floor, she owned it. She turned those minutes into a showcase of sheer resilience, the kind of performance fans will remember long after this series is over.
You have drawn the most offensive foul in the W this year, including the playoff. How are you able to do that?
I'm just trying to defend as hard as I can, and there's only certain screens you're allowed to set, so just trying to trail them, and that's all I can really say.
16 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 blocks, a steal, and she did it all on 6 of 10 shooting, including 3 clutch triples that landed like jolts of oxygen every time Vegas tried to surge ahead. Those threes weren't just stats on a box score. They tied her with a Fever playoff record across 2 games, giving her 8 total. Not bad for a player gutting it out through back pain when most expected she'd barely see the floor. And those 16 points? A career playoff high, delivered in the middle of absolute chaos.
Boston has the mismatch on Lloyd. Help comes. Kick out. Cole will fire. And hit from 3. Last 2 positions inside from Indiana. Smith tied up by Hull. And a jump ball between Smith and Hull.
What made Hull's performance unforgettable wasn't just the numbers. It was how she earned them. Every possession felt like a battle. Loose balls turned into collisions, rebounds into wrestling matches, and through it all, Hull refused to flinch. The cameras caught her wincing in pain more than once, yet she kept throwing her body into box-outs against players bigger and healthier. She hit the floor for loose balls, absorbed contact on rebounds, and still had the poise to drain threes on the other end. Every play she made was worth more than points. It pumped life back into the Fever each time the officiating tried to drain it away.
On the left side of the floor, just a clear out, letting Jackie Young go to work.
Jackie Young with 17 points. Boston to the corner. Hull, catch, fire, and hit. Correct call. Evans dishes. Ray whips a pass inside. What a denial from Lexie Hull.
The Hull able to save the play.
12-point game, a little under 2.5 to go. Hull hits Indiana's first field goal of the quarter.